All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Mainly Hoops podcast. Where we're finishing up actually with the SEC transfer portal today. We got our last team, the Auburn Tigers. If you are enjoying the content, make sure you like and subscribe. We really appreciate all the support we've been getting. But we're gonna get started, dive into it. Cody, we're starting with you. Who's your favorite transfer that Auburn got this offseason?
It's been kind of tough for me to decide who my favorite one is or who's going to provide the most impact. But I guess just to be safe, I think I would say Keyshawn Hall, just for what he's going to bring to the table on the offensive end as a creator, as a rim and three scorer, at least. The mid range game is not really all that there. He struggled in that area last season, but, averaged 18.8 a game, shot at 43% from the field on a UCF team that just wasn't really all that great last year. They showed flashes of on the offensive side at least, but from you know from a speaking in general, I think that's not the worst efficiency out there for as much usage as he had to provide. He's been a 28% usage guy basically his entire career. So, but yeah, I just think from a floor perspective, for now, I think he's going to provide the most impact. Obviously, there's guys coming in from the D2 ranks, Elijah Freeman, who I guess we can call him more of an upside guy. I mean, he fits this Bruce Pearl scheme fairly well from an archetype perspective. His length, gives him some two-way projectability. And then a guy like Abdul Bashir as well, who can really light it up from three, coming from the JUCO ranks. But I guess I'll go with Keyshawn Hall for now, just because he's going to provide the highest floor and he has the most certainty in my eyes right now.
Marcus, do you agree, or do you got someone else in mind?
Yeah, I would agree as well. I think, like, the thing about Hall, he's a really dynamic, like, big guard, right? What is he? 6'8", 6'7". He is a little bit like loose with the ball sometimes, which is a bit of a concern for me. Now he's also going to have Tahad Pettiford here to play on the ball some, but they're going to use Hall a bunch, I think, in that like point forward role. But like you said, he's a 3-point guy, gets to the rim a lot and gets to the line a ton. Took 244 free throws last year and shot it at 82% there. He's solid on the boards. Like 16% of the defensive glass. I think he has a lot of upside. That not a lot of people watch UCF basketball, right? I think people are going to be excited to see Hall at Auburn. I think he's going to show out pretty well, and maybe be a bit more efficient this year. He's going to not have to shoulder as much of the load. He's going to have other guys alongside him that are also capable of making plays consistently and knocking down shots. But I think Hall is the guy for me as well.
Cody, are there any other transfers that stand out to you? I know you started talking about a couple other guys, but expand on that a little bit.
Yeah. It's just tough to kind of determine what Elijah Freeman and Abdul Bashir are going to be. Super high usage roles at D2 Lincoln Memorial for Freeman, and JUCO, who I believe he went to Casper. That's where Bashir went. It's just they're going to have to play different roles. I think Bashir on the offensive end, it probably fits in a little bit better right away just because of his catch and shoot ability. He's really talented. He kind of plays like his brother, who's going to Kansas State next season. Just super like perimeter dominant guys who shoot it really well on the move, off the bounce, and just off the catch stationary wise. So I think he's going to be able to play somewhat of a role in the offensive end. I think the defensive end is kind of where the concern is with him. Lanky 6'7" guy, but just doesn't seem to move his feet like the greatest on the defensive side. It's going to be a little bit tougher for him to jump up to the SEC level in that regard. Then with Freeman, like the off the ball qualities aren't crazy just because his perimeter jumper doesn't seem to be all that comfortable. And a lot of teams at the D2 ranks sort of just left him open, kind of went under screens and sort of dared him to make shots just because he was so overwhelming athleticism wise. He was just such a great above the rim athlete. So they were kind of trying to take that away and, force him to knock down shots. He shot at 46%, but I just don't really see it translating at a super high level in the SEC. But one guy that I think is super underrated is Keyshawn Murphy, coming from Mississippi State last season. Provides a lot of value in a lot of areas on the offensive end, gets on the glass, and he can also operate in the dribble handoff game. He's a solid passer for a center, 13% assist rate last season. Last year was really his first year in like a high volume role minutes wise. He played 59% of Mississippi State's minutes last year, as opposed to the prior 2 years where he didn't even break 20% of the total team's minutes. And he flourished with a larger role. And on the defensive end, moves well in space, provides rim protection, and gets on the defensive glass. That's three areas that are perfect for a Bruce Pearl scheme that, sort of emphasizes being versatile and, just being able to provide rim protection while being able to guard in space. So I think he probably fits the system the best. He's not going to be a super high usage offensive hub by any means, but he can provide value on both sides of the ball.
Marcus, let's hear your thoughts about these other transfers.
Yeah. Cody's taken a lot of my points. But I do think Freeman has upside coming from D2, right? It's always a bit of an unknown, but athletically should be able to contribute. And, he's 6'8", and he's got 3 years of eligibility left, right? So he scored 541 points last year in D2. Just pretty efficient overall, averaged 9 boards. I think he can be impactful. He's not going to, I don't think, at least have a massive role in the offensive end, at least for this season. But, maybe he translates right away on that end. As for Keyshawn Murphy, Cody, I think you said it perfectly. He's going to be really good on the glass. He's going to run the rim hard. He's going to be good on the defensive end. Can be a roller, lob threat guy. He can just kind of do exactly, I think, what this team needs, and just be high energy all over the place, versatile on both ends, and just impact the game at a high level and translate that to winning basketball. So I do think he fits very well. Then the other transfer that they did get is Kevin Overton from Texas Tech. We haven't talked about him at all. I don't really know what to make of him, because some games I'd watch him. I guess I just call him a streaky shooter. Some games he gets hot and you're all right, Overton is kind of a nice floor spacer. But then you look at his numbers and he's been a career 34% 3-point shooter, which isn't great for a guy that doesn't really create much off the bounce, doesn't really do a ton elsewhere on the offensive end. So for me, he's kind of just a floor spacer, when he's streaky. But overall, I said, 34% at 3 from beyond the arc at Texas Tech. Not great numbers for a guy you're depending on as a catch and shoot guy.
What can we expect from this Auburn Tiger team this upcoming season? Cody, we'll go with you.
Yeah, I thought that was a good point about Overton as well. I just, the way I view him, I just view him as a serviceable two-way piece. I don't think he really moves the needle in a ton of areas. He's going to be able to knock down the catch and shoot 3 at a competent level, but he's more of a platoon piece on the wing. If guys like Bashir and Philip Jovic, the freshman, along with some other 4 stars that are coming in, if they don't, if they're not able to take on a large role, I think Overton's just a serviceable piece that they can throw in there, and he's not going to impact the game negatively in necessarily any area. So yeah, I thought that was a solid point about Overton. But as for expectations, obviously it's not going to look like last year. This team was the best team in the country for a large portion of the season. They burst onto the scene from night number 1 when they beat Vermont by 300 points, it seemed like, and everyone kind of fell in love with them. We're not going to see that this coming season. I just don't think they have that kind of offensive pop or even just two-way pop in general, I think they're going to be fine on both ends. I think they're going to be a top 25 team for sure, because I do think the talent level is good enough on both ends to, you know, compete in the SEC at the top half of the SEC, maybe even the top 5. But I mean, you got to replace some really damn good players, and Jedi Broom, who could have easily won the Wooden Award. Dylan Cardwell was the unsung hero of this Auburn team for 4 years. Denver Jones was probably a top 5 most underrated player in the entire country, in my opinion, from a two-way impact. Miles Kelly had a great season. It's just a lot of really good players to replace. And I think Pearl did a good job. He likes to go the JUCO rank, the D2 ranks. But, that does create some volatility if these guys don't end up hitting. So for now, I have to say they got significantly worse, just because, I mean, they were a Final Four team last year and they were everyone's pick to win the national championship for the first half of the season. So, but I still think they're top 20 to top 25. It's not Final Four national championship upside for me.
Marcus, let's hear it from you, your expectations.
Yeah, I agree. Like, you're going to see a significant drop off. They're not going to win games by as big a margins as we've seen. They're not going to be as dominant night in and night out. You're going to see more inconsistent play, I think. I think they're still going to be a good team, but I kind of see them as like a classic 5-6 seed type team. Like talented, but not quite like at that level of, like Cody said, competing for a national title. Like they'll be a good team for sure, still in that top 5 or 6 in the SEC, but like not in the top 2 or 3. I don't think. Like they're going to finish in that like 4 to 6 range in the SEC, in my opinion.
Any final thoughts we want to add before we wrap up the Tigers?
Yeah, I mean, I think this team is going to be fairly dependent on what Tahad Pettiford ends up turning into as a playmaker. He's going to have the ball in his hands a lot more. Obviously, I talked about the talent of last year's roster. There was a lot of space for him to operate, and he was really good in year one, and decided to come back after not getting the greatest feedback in the NBA draft. And he's going to have the ball in his hands a ton, operating in pick and roll. And it's just, I am curious to see what he looks like as more of a 3-level scorer, and when defenses pay more attention to him, what is he going to provide? And like I said, I mean, they're a top 20 to 25 team, and it wouldn't surprise me if they made a Final Four, but I just don't think it's in like their main range of outcomes right now.
Marcus, your final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm excited to see Keyshawn Hall, I guess, at in a good program. Like UCF's really struggled the last few years, so I think it'll be good to see what he can bring to the table at Auburn.
All right, let's wrap it up with the Auburn Tigers. As always, thank you for listening to Mainly Hoops Podcast.